Her groom kissed another woman just hours before their wedding, but what she did next left everyone in shock. The morning sun rose gently over the city of Lagos, painting the skyline with strokes of gold and pink. It was a day meant for joy, for celebration, for laughter. The streets buzzed with excitement as cars decorated with ribbons and flowers hurried past, honking cheerfully, carrying relatives and friends all dressed in bright African attires, gele head wraps sparkling, igbostories swaying in the morning breeze. This was not just another day, this was her wedding day. Amara, the bride, sat quietly in her room. Her white gown shimmered with lace that caught the light every time she moved. The veil framed her face like a halo, but her heart was heavy. People outside laughed, danced, sang songs of union and blessings, but deep inside, Amara felt a small storm brewing. Her hands, delicate but firm, clutched a bouquet of fresh roses. Hidden inside those roses was a tiny camera, one no one knew about, not even her closest friends. Why? Because Amara had learned long ago never to trust appearances. From childhood, she had been taught to trust blindly in love, to believe that once you found someone who promised forever, you gave them everything. But life had not been so kind. The one man she thought she could lean on, her father, had left her mother when she was just a child. That betrayal scarred her. So even now, on the day of her wedding, when she was supposed to be swept up in fairy tale dreams, her heart whispered warnings. Her groom, Tunde, was the man every woman in Lagos would dream of marrying. Tall, handsome, with skin that glowed rich and smooth, and a smile that could charm anyone, he was a successful businessman whose presence commanded respect. He had a way of making people believe in him instantly. Friends called him loyal, ambitious, and dependable. Parents adored him. Even Amara's mother had looked at him with teary eyes and whispered, "This one, my daughter, will not break your heart." But Amara wasn't so sure. Over the months of their courtship, she had seen shadows pass across his face when he thought no one was watching. She had caught his phone calls at odd hours, messages he quickly deleted, business trips that never quite made sense. She had never been able to gather proof, but the feeling lingered. Tunde was hiding something. And so, against her better judgment, she had placed that tiny camera in her bouquet. Not to spy, not to destroy her own wedding day, but to protect herself. If her instincts were wrong, the camera would remain a silent witness, locked forever in her drawer after the wedding. But if her instincts were right, then the world would see a story no one was expecting. As the choir outside began singing songs of joy, Amara forced herself to smile at her bridesmaids. They danced around her, adjusting her gown, praising her beauty, calling her Queen of the Day. She laughed with them, but her eyes occasionally drifted to the bouquet in her hands. Meanwhile, across town, Tunde was not where he was supposed to be. He had told his best man, his family, and everyone else that he needed a few moments of quiet prayer before the ceremony. They had all respected his request, believing it was the groom's way of calming himself before such a huge commitment. But in truth, Tunde was not in any church or chapel, nor was he kneeling before God in prayer. Instead, he was in a dimly lit apartment, the curtains drawn tight. The air inside was thick with perfume, heavy and sweet. And there, standing before him, was another woman. Her name was Kemi. She was everything opposite of Amara. Where Amara was gentle and reserved, Kemi was fiery, bold, and dangerous. She wore a red dress that clung to her figure like flame to dry grass. Her laughter filled the room, seductive and careless, as if the world belonged to her. And Tunde, he was completely ensnared. As the wedding cars gathered outside the church, as Amara's mother wiped her eyes with joy, as guests arrived in glittering outfits ready to dance the day away, Tunde leaned closer to Kemi. Their whispers were filled with secrets, with promises that should never have been made, with touches that betrayed the vows he was about to speak in only a few hours. And then, the kiss. It was not a kiss of guilt or hesitation. It was a kiss of passion, of hunger, of a man who lived a double life. His lips pressed against hers, and in that very moment he sealed his own fate. For he did not know that his betrayal would not remain hidden. Back at the bride's home, Amara sat in her chair, bouquet in hand, the hidden camera silently recording. She did not yet know what it was capturing, did not yet see the truth unfolding. But her heart, her instincts, they screamed at her. Something was wrong. And indeed, something was. For while one woman dressed in white waited to begin her forever, her groom was elsewhere, kissing another woman, moments away from being caught in the cruelest twist of destiny. The story was only beginning. The church stood tall, white pillars gleaming under the morning Sunday. Its bells rang loud, echoing through the streets of Lagos, calling families, friends, and neighbors to gather. Inside, the hall was alive with music, drummers beating traditional rhythms that shook the air with celebration. Women in Gile head wraps shimmered in colors of gold and blue, while men wore agbadas, embroidered richly, as though the day itself demanded nothing less than royalty. It was a wedding fit for legends. Amara's car arrived, a sleek white vehicle adorned with flowers. The moment she stepped out, gasps filled the air. She looked like a vision, her gown trailing behind her like a river of clouds, her veil shining softly in the morning light. Everyone rushed forward, her mother wiping tears, her friends clapping, guests holding their phones high to capture the moment. To them, she was the picture of happiness, a bride stepping into her destiny. But beneath the veil, Amara's lips were tight, her heart beating with unease. She held the bouquet close, the tiny hidden camera inside silently capturing her every move. She whispered to herself, "If my heart is lying to me, then let today prove it wrong. But if it is telling me the truth, then let the world see what I see." Meanwhile, inside the groom's chamber, Tunde adjusted his black tuxedo. His best man teased him. "My brother, see, as you're sweating like a boy about to write WAEC exam, calm down. Your queen is waiting." The room erupted in laughter, and Tunde forced a smile, dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief. But his heart pounded for a different reason. The kiss with Kemi lingered on his lips, and guilt weighed heavy on him. He tried to shake it off. It was just one last time, nothing more. Amara doesn't have to know. He told himself lies to cover his betrayal, but deep down he knew the truth. He had planted poison in the soil of his marriage before it had even begun. The doors to the church opened wide, and the guests rose to their feet. The choir's voices rose higher, a heavenly chorus filling the air. Amara began her slow walk down the aisle. Step by step, her gown swayed, her veil floated, her eyes locked forward where Tunde stood, waiting at the altar. He looked back at her with a smile, dazzling and confident, as if he had nothing to hide. For a moment, the world seemed perfect. Her mother whispered, "That is your husband, my child. See how his eyes shine only for you." But Amara's heart remained unsettled. His smile looked too perfect, too practiced, like a mask hiding something darker. She tightened her grip on the bouquet, as though drawing strength from the hidden truth it carried. When she finally reached him, Tunde extended his hand. Their fingers touched, and the guests clapped and cheered. To them, it was love. To Amara, it was a question. Can I trust these hands, these lips, this man? The ceremony began. The pastor's deep voice carried through the hall, speaking of unity, of love, of the sacred vow that bound two souls together. He spoke of trust, of faithfulness, of promises made not just before men, but before God. And with each word, Amara felt her chest tighten. For while the words rang pure and holy, the image of Tunde's secret lingered in her mind, an image she did not yet see but felt with every heartbeat. The guests laughed, danced in their seats, fanned themselves with joy. The children ran about in small bursts of play, unaware of the storm that quietly brewed. Everything looked flawless. Yet the bride's eyes flickered every now and then to her bouquet. She knew something. Tunde, on the other hand, avoided her gaze whenever he could. He focused on smiling at the guests, on nodding at the pastor, on holding Amara's hand firmly as though the strength of his grip could erase the weakness of his heart. He dared not look too long into her eyes, for he feared she might see everything. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the exchange of vows. The pastor looked first at Tunde. "Son, do you take this woman to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, till death do you part?" The hall went silent, every eye fixed on the groom. Tunde's smile widened. He spoke with a voice that carried confidence. "Yes, I do." The guests erupted in applause. The women ululated, their voices sharp and joyous, echoing through the church. Then it was Amara's turn. The pastor asked the same question, and Amara looked at Tunde. His eyes sparkled with charm, but deep in them, she saw a shadow. Her lips parted, but her voice trembled. Yes, I do. Another cheer filled the air, louder this time, as if the heavens themselves had joined. The choir broke into song, and the pastor raised his hands to bless the union. But inside Amara's heart, the storm only grew stronger. Her mind whispered, something is wrong, something is hidden, and soon, very soon, it will come to light. She looked down at her bouquet, at the hidden camera nestled within. She didn't know it yet, but somewhere inside that tiny device, the truth was already waiting. The kiss, the betrayal, the secret captured forever. And when it would surface, the world they stood in now, this perfect image of love and happiness, would shatter like glass. The guests saw a wedding. Amara felt a warning, and Tunde, standing tall and smiling, had no idea his lies were already slipping into the light. The day was not yet over. The real drama had only just begun. The wedding vows were sealed, the rings were exchanged, and the pastor's voice thundered with blessing. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. The crowd clapped, shouted, and danced in their seats. Some women wiped tears from their eyes, while others fanned themselves and whispered, "See how beautiful they look together. God has truly blessed them." The hall outside the church had been transformed into a palace of celebration. Long tables overflowed with food: steaming jollof rice, fried plantain, grilled fish, pepper soup, goat meat so tender it fell from the bone. Drinks sparkled in every glass, the air filled with laughter and the music of live drummers. The reception was alive with color, sound, and joy, an African wedding in its full glory. Amara and Tunde sat at the high table, decorated with roses and golden cloth. They looked like royalty, the king and queen of the day, smiling at their guests, nodding at relatives, raising glasses whenever someone toasted to their happiness. But behind Amara's smile lay questions. She glanced at Tunde when no one was looking. His laughter rang loud, his teeth shone white, and his eyes danced with charm. To anyone else, he was the picture of a perfect husband, proud to stand beside his bride. But to Amara, the smile looked rehearsed, a little too polished. His eyes, she noticed, shifted quickly whenever they lingered on hers. He is hiding something. Tunde, for his part, felt the weight of her gaze. He forced himself to laugh louder, to dance when called, to greet relatives with energy, as if performance alone could drown out guilt. But each time his bride's eyes caught his, a chill ran through him. It was as though she knew, as though her silence carried more truth than any words could. The master of ceremonies took the microphone and called the couple to the dance floor. The drummers beat faster, the trumpets blared, and family members rushed forward, showering the bride and groom with Naira notes, their joy spilling like rivers of wealth and blessing. The crowd cheered as Amara and Tunde danced, their steps slow at first, then faster as the music demanded. To the guests, it was love on display. But Amara felt like she was dancing with a stranger. Every step she took with him, every spin, every smile, felt like a lie that tightened around her. She held her bouquet close, the hidden camera still nestled within. She wondered if fate had already placed the proof she needed inside it, or if she was only tormenting herself with shadows. The evening wore on. Relatives gave speeches filled with laughter and tears. Friends told stories of the couple's journey, how Tunde had pursued Amara, how their love had blossomed. "He is a man of integrity," one uncle declared proudly. "He is faithful, hard-working, a true son of our land. My niece is blessed to have him." The hall erupted in applause. Tunde bowed his head modestly, smiling the smile of a man who wore a crown he did not deserve. Amara's chest tightened. Faithful? She thought bitterly. If only they knew. As the night deepened, the dance floor remained full. Children chased each other between tables, women laughed as they adjusted their head wraps, men raised bottles of beer and cheered. It was a feast of joy, but for Amara, it was a battlefield of silence. Her maid of honor leaned close and whispered, "Sister, you look tense. Is everything all right?" Amara forced a smile. "I'm fine. It's just the weight of the day. Weddings are overwhelming." but her heart said otherwise. When the cake was brought out, tall and decorated with layers of white and gold, the crowd sang. Tunde placed his hand over Amara's, guiding the knife as tradition demanded. Together, they cut the cake while cameras flashed. "Smile!" shouted a cousin. "This picture will hang in your children's homes one day." Amara smiled, but the knife felt heavy in her hand, like a symbol of the choice she would soon have to make. Late into the evening, when the last dances slowed and the crowd thinned, Amara found herself standing alone at the edge of the hall, bouquet still in her hands. The tiny camera inside remained silent, hidden, patient. Her mind replayed the day, the vows, the applause, the praise, the cheers. Everything looked perfect on the outside, but inside her chest a storm still raged. She remembered her father's betrayal, her mother's tears, the scars of a broken promise, and now she wondered if history was about to repeat itself. Behind her, Tunde laughed with a group of his friends, his voice loud, confident, unshaken. To the world, he was a husband. To Amara, he was a question waiting to be answered. And little did they both know, the answer was already captured. Somewhere, hidden in the memory of that tiny camera, the kiss with Kemi lived like a ghost, waiting for the moment to rise. The celebration would soon end. The night would turn silent. And then, the truth would begin to speak. The reception had finally come to an end. The last drum beats faded into silence, the last laughter slipped into memory, and the final guests drifted away into the night. The once lively hall now stood quiet, littered with flower petals, empty bottles, and the faint echo of celebration. Amara sat in the bridal car, her bouquet still pressed tightly in her hands. The hidden camera rested within, unseen and unnoticed. She gazed through the window as the car pulled away from the church grounds. Families waved goodbye, children chased after the vehicle before giving up, and relatives shouted blessings into the night air. To them, it was the perfect ending to a perfect day. But to Amara, the silence in her heart was deafening. Beside her, Tunde leaned back in his seat, sighing deeply. "What a day," he said with a tired smile. "You were beautiful, Amara. I am the luckiest man alive." Amara turned her head and studied him. His eyes sparkled, his smile radiated warmth, and his words carried the weight of charm. But still, something in her heart whispered, "Do not trust what you see." She forced a smile. It was a long day. "I'm glad it's over." Tunde chuckled. "Over, my queen? This is just the beginning." He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "Now we begin our forever." But Amara's fingers tightened on the bouquet instead, as though drawing strength from its secret. Their new home was a lavish apartment overlooking the city. The lights of Lagos twinkled outside like a sea of stars, cars honking below, nightlife roaring in the distance. The apartment itself smelled of new paint and expensive furniture. Tunde had spared no expense. "Do you like it?" Tunde asked, carrying her over the threshold as tradition demanded. Amara glanced around. "It's beautiful." He set her down, kissing her forehead. "It is ours now. Everything here, everything in my life, belongs to you." The words were sweet, but Amara's chest tightened again. Later that night, when the noise of the city softened and the apartment grew still, Amara stood by the window, staring at the skyline. Tunde was asleep on the bed behind her, his breaths deep and even. She looked at him for a long moment. His face, so calm in slumber, looked innocent, almost boyish. It was hard to believe the same face could hide betrayal. She turned her gaze back to her bouquet. Slowly, carefully, she placed it on the dresser. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the flowers, making sure the tiny hidden camera remained concealed. She whispered to herself, "If there is truth inside you, I will find it." Her reflection in the glass stared back at her, veiled in shadows, a woman torn between trust and fear. The following days passed in a blur of visits and congratulations. Family members streamed into their new home, bringing gifts, offering prayers, and filling the apartment with laughter. Neighbors came with dishes of food, children played in the corridors, and everyone praised Tunde as the perfect husband. But Amara noticed the cracks. Tunde often stepped outside to take calls. He always returned with excuses, business matters, nothing important. He grew restless when she walked near his phone. And sometimes, when he thought she wasn't looking, his smile faded into worry. His eyes darkened with something unspoken. One evening, Amara asked softly, "Tunde, are you happy?" He looked at her, startled, then forced a smile. "Of course I am. You are my wife, Amara. I am the happiest man alive." But she saw the way his hand trembled when he reached for his glass of water. She saw the shadow that passed across his face before the smile returned. Her suspicion deepened. That night, while Tunde showered, Amara sat on the bed with her bouquet. She carefully pressed the hidden button that transferred the footage to her laptop. Her heart raced as the screen flickered to life. For a long moment, nothing appeared, just faint images of her walking, her friends laughing, the sound of wedding bells. Then the screen shifted. The bouquet had been placed down earlier that morning, right before the ceremony, and the camera had accidentally tilted toward a corner of the groom's room. The image was blurry, but Amara froze. She saw Tunde, standing close to another figure. She leaned forward, her breath catching. The woman was dressed in red. Kemi. Though the footage was incomplete, though the sound was muffled, though the kiss was not yet clear, Amara's heart knew. The storm inside her roared to life. Her hand shook as she paused the video. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. "No," she whispered. "Please, no." Behind her, the sound of running water continued. Steady, innocent. Tunde hummed softly in the shower as though the world were free of guilt. But Amara now knew her instincts had not lied. The proof was close, the truth was rising, and when the full recording revealed itself, Tunde's carefully built mask would crumble. The night was thick with silence, broken only by the faint sound of water from the bathroom. Amara's hands trembled as she stared at the paused footage on her laptop. The blurred image of Tunde leaning toward a woman in red burned into her mind like fire. Her heart pounded painfully. For months, her instincts had whispered to her, begged her to see what her eyes could not. Now, though the image was unclear, the truth was undeniable. Tunde was not the man everyone believed him to be. Still, she pressed play again. The footage crackled. The bouquet had shifted slightly as it rested on the table that morning, giving the camera a better angle. Amara held her breath as the figures came into focus. Tunde's face appeared clearly now, his jawline sharp, his tuxedo unmistakable. He leaned closer, his hand brushing against the woman's cheek. Then came the kiss. Slow, deliberate, passionate. Amara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Tears filled her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. She wanted to scream, to smash the laptop, to pretend she had not seen what she had just witnessed. But the image remained, frozen forever in the memory of the tiny camera. Her groom, her husband, on the very morning of their wedding, kissing another woman. The bathroom door creaked open, and she quickly slammed the laptop shut. Her chest heaved as she shoved the bouquet aside. Tunde stepped out, a towel around his shoulders, smiling as if nothing in the world was wrong. "You're still awake?" he asked casually, drying his hair. Amara forced a nod. "Yes. Just thinking about the day." He chuckled, walking over to her. "It was beautiful, wasn't it? Everyone loved us. The speeches, the dancing, the laughter, it felt like a dream." Amara's lips trembled as she whispered, "Yes, like a dream." Tunde leaned down and kissed her forehead. She flinched slightly, but he didn't notice. He climbed into bed, yawning loudly. Within minutes, his breathing slowed as he drifted into sleep. Amara, however, sat motionless in the dark, her eyes burning with silent rage. The following morning, Tunde woke early, dressing sharply in a suit. He kissed her cheek as she pretended to still be asleep. "I have to meet a client," he whispered. "Rest, my queen. I'll be back before dinner." Amara kept her eyes shut until the door closed. Then she rose quickly, grabbing her laptop. She played the footage again, her body trembling as the kiss replayed before her eyes. "Why, Tunde?" she whispered. "Why would you betray me on the very day we were to begin forever?" The camera's memory had captured more than the kiss. Their whispers, faint but audible, leaked through the speakers. Amara leaned closer, straining to hear. Tunde's voice. Soft. Intimate. "Don't worry, Kemi. She won't ever know. This is just between us." Her blood ran cold. Kemi's laughter followed. "You say that now, but how long before she finds out? You're hers now, not mine." Tunde's reply came sharp, desperate. "You'll always be mine, Kemi. She is my wife, yes, but you are my fire." Amara slammed the laptop shut, her hands shaking violently. Her breaths came in ragged gasps. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just weakness. It was deliberate. He had married her while belonging to another. That evening, when Tunde returned, Amara greeted him with a smile. Her eyes were swollen from tears, but she hid them carefully behind laughter. "How was your meeting?" she asked softly. "Good, good," Tunde said, loosening his tie. "Clients are happy. Business is moving well." Amara nodded, serving him food. He ate heartily, praising her cooking, joking about how lucky he was to have a wife like her. She smiled, laughed at his jokes, asked about his day. But deep inside, her heart whispered, "Your time will come, Tunde." That night, as he lay beside her in bed, she turned away, her eyes open in the dark. She felt his arm drape around her waist, heavy and warm, but it felt like chains, not comfort. She closed her eyes, whispering silently to herself, "I will not be my mother. I will not live with betrayal in silence. The truth will not die in shadows. One day soon, the world will see you for who you really are." And with that vow, Amara drifted into restless sleep, holding her secret like a weapon close to her heart. The morning sun poured through the curtains, casting golden streaks across the bedroom. Amara sat on the edge of the bed, her face calm, her heart anything but. She had not slept well. The images of Tunde and Kemi replayed endlessly in her mind, the kiss, the whispered words, the laughter that mocked her vows. Tunde stirred beside her. "Why are you up so early?" he mumbled sleepily. Amara forced a smile. "I couldn't sleep. Too much on my mind." He stretched and kissed her cheek. "Don't worry. We'll settle into our new life soon enough." But his words sounded hollow to her now. Every smile, every touch, every kiss carried the weight of betrayal. Later that day, Amara decided to make her first move. She invited her closest friends over for lunch. The apartment filled with laughter, the aroma of fried rice and plantain, the sound of glasses clinking. To anyone watching, it looked like the perfect gathering of newlyweds and their friends. Tunde played the role of charming husband flawlessly. He laughed with the men, told stories that made the women giggle, and even stood to serve drinks, earning more admiration. But Amara watched him carefully. His charm was a mask, and she now saw the cracks. The way his eyes darted whenever someone mentioned faithfulness. The stiffness in his shoulders when one of her friends joked, "Ah, Tunde, now no more girlfriends, oh, you belong only to Amara." Everyone laughed, but Tunde's smile faltered for half a second. Only Amara noticed. When the guests left, Amara gathered the dishes in silence. Tunde came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You were amazing today," he whispered. "Everyone loves you. You're the perfect wife." She stiffened under his touch, then gently pulled away, turning to face him with a sweet smile. "And you're the perfect husband, aren't you?" The words were soft, almost playful, but her eyes held something sharp. Tunde blinked, caught off guard. "Of course I am." Amara leaned closer, her voice low. "Then you won't mind if I always keep my bouquet close. It reminds me of our vows." His eyes flickered briefly to the bouquet sitting on the dresser. He smiled again, but it was strained this time. "Of course, keep it as long as you like." Amara turned away, hiding her smirk. "You don't know yet, Tunde, but soon you will." The next evening, Amara tested him again. They sat together watching television when she suddenly asked, "Tunde, do you believe secrets can destroy a marriage?" He stiffened slightly, then laughed nervously. "Secrets? No. Every couple has small things they don't tell each other. What matters is love." Amara tilted her head, studying him. "And if the secret isn't small, what if it's something big? Something that changes everything?" Tunde's smile faded for a fraction of a second. "Amara, why do you ask such questions? We are married now. Don't fill your head with doubts." But Amara leaned back on the couch, her expression calm. "I just wonder, because the truth always finds its way out. Don't you think so?" He said nothing for a moment, his eyes fixed on the TV screen, though he clearly wasn't watching. Then, forcing another smile, he said, "You think too much, my queen." But Amara could feel his unease. That night, after Tunde had fallen asleep, Amara unlocked her laptop once more. She played the footage again, forcing herself to watch every second. The kiss, the whispers, the lies. Her tears fell silently, but this time there was no weakness in them. They were not tears of despair, they were tears of resolve. She whispered into the night, "You thought you could betray me and hide it, but I will not be silent. The truth will break you, Tunde. I will make sure of it." Her hand brushed over the bouquet, the camera still hidden within. That tiny device had become her shield, her sword, her weapon of justice. The next day, Amara called her mother. They spoke warmly about the wedding, the food, the guests, but then Amara's voice softened. "Mama," she said, "did you ever know before Papa left? Did you ever feel it in your heart that he was not faithful?" There was silence on the other end. Finally, her mother whispered, "Yes." "A woman always knows. The heart never lies, Amara. But I was too afraid to face the truth. I thought silence was strength, but silence only chained me." Amara's eyes burned with tears, but her voice was steady. "I will not be silent, Mama." Her mother's voice broke. "Then you are stronger than I ever was." Amara ended the call, her resolve burning brighter. She would not repeat her mother's fate. She would not let betrayal sit in darkness. That evening, she dressed in a flowing gown of deep blue, her hair wrapped elegantly, her beauty radiant. When Tunde came home, he stopped in his tracks. "You look stunning," he said softly. Amara smiled, her eyes locking on his. "Do I? Good, because soon everyone will see us more clearly than they ever have." Tunde blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" She brushed past him, her smile unwavering. "Don't worry, you'll understand soon enough." And with those words, she left him standing in the hallway, his heart stirring with unease he could not explain. The following week, Amara hosted a small dinner party at their home. It was nothing grand, just a few close friends, colleagues, and some of Tunde's business associates. The dining table sparkled with candlelight, glasses clinked, and laughter filled the air. But Amara had prepared more than food that night. When everyone gathered in the living room, sipping wine and exchanging stories, Amara stood up with a gentle smile. "I thought it would be fun," she said sweetly, "if we share some of our happiest memories, something no one else knows about." The guests clapped in agreement, eager for lighthearted entertainment. One by one, they shared small stories, childhood adventures, funny mistakes, embarrassing moments. The room was alive with laughter. Then it was Tunde's turn. He stood confidently, his charm glowing as he spoke about his childhood and his dreams of building his company. The guests applauded, impressed. Amara smiled politely, then raised her glass. "Beautiful story, my husband. But I wonder, are there other stories, hidden ones, that you haven't shared with us?" The room went quiet. Tunde froze for half a second, then forced a laugh. "What do you mean, my love?" She tilted her head, her eyes locking on him. "I mean, secrets have a way of surfacing. Even when we think no one is watching, the truth is always closer than we think." The words hung in the air like smoke. Some guests shifted uncomfortably. Tunde chuckled nervously, raising his glass. "Ah, my wife likes to tease. Don't take her seriously." The laughter returned, but his eyes betrayed unease. Later that evening, after the guests had left, Tunde confronted her in the kitchen. "Why did you say that?" he demanded, his voice low but sharp. Amara turned, her face calm, her smile soft. "Say what?" "You know what? About secrets, about the truth. Why would you embarrass me like that in front of my friends?" Her eyes glittered. "Embarrass you? I simply spoke about honesty. If that embarrasses you, Tunde, perhaps you are hiding something worth fearing." His jaw tightened. For a moment, he had no words. Then he laughed coldly. "You're imagining things. Don't let your mind play tricks on you." Amara stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "My mind is clear, and so is my sight." The silence between them was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. That night, when Tunde thought she was asleep, he crept quietly into the living room. Amara, lying still in bed, opened her eyes the moment she heard the faint creak of the floorboards. She rose silently and followed him, her bare feet making no sound. From the hallway, she watched as Tunde pulled out his phone, dialing quickly. His voice was low, urgent. "Kemi, you need to be careful. I think she suspects something. Yes, she said things tonight in front of people. No, she doesn't know everything yet, but I don't like it." Amara's blood ran cold. Her suspicion was confirmed. He was still in contact with Kemi even now, even after the wedding. Tunde's voice softened. "Don't worry, I'll handle her. She's too innocent to really do anything. Just don't come near me for a while. Not until things calm down." Amara retreated quietly, her heart pounding. Innocent? That was how he saw her? As someone too weak to fight back? She returned to bed, her mind ablaze. He still talks to her. He still loves her. He thinks I'm blind. He thinks I'm weak. But soon, Tunde, you will see just how wrong you are. The next day, Amara made her first calculated strike. She invited her cousin, Adeze, a sharp-tongued and fearless woman, to visit. Over tea, she spoke loudly enough for Tunde to hear from the next room. Adeze, do you believe it's possible for a man to kiss another woman just hours before marrying his wife? Adeze gasped. God forbid. Which shameless man would do that? Amara smiled thinly. You would be surprised what some men are capable of. Some think they can hide it forever. But they forget. The eyes of a woman never truly sleep. Her cousin nodded fiercely. If it were me, I would expose him before the whole village. Amara chuckled softly. Yes, sometimes exposure is the only cure for betrayal. From the kitchen, Tunde froze, his hands gripping the counter. He could no longer deny it. Amara knew something. That night, he confronted her again, his voice sharp with anger. What are you trying to do, Amara? Are you accusing me of something? She looked at him calmly, her eyes steady. Why do you sound so guilty, Tunde? I never called your name. His face tightened. His charm, his composure, his mask, it was cracking, piece by piece. Amara smiled, turning away. Good night, my husband. Sleep well. Tomorrow will be interesting. Tunde lay awake long after she drifted to sleep, fear gnawing at him. For the first time, he wondered if perhaps he had underestimated her. The days passed slowly, each one thick with unspoken tension. Amara played her role perfectly, smiling at the right times, laughing when expected, moving about as though nothing was wrong. But beneath that calm surface, she was plotting. Tunde, on the other hand, grew restless. He avoided long conversations, spent more time at the office, and flinched whenever Amara's eyes lingered on him too long. His mask was slipping, and he knew it. Amara waited patiently, biding her time. One afternoon, she made a decision. She reached into her drawer and pulled out a small flash drive. The hidden camera had captured everything: the kiss, the whispers, the proof of his betrayal. She copied the footage and tucked the drive carefully into her purse. Then she called Adeze. Cousin, I need your help, she said softly. Adeze's sharp voice replied instantly, Say no more. What must I do? Amara's lips curved into a faint smile. Just come tomorrow evening, bring a few trusted friends. We're gonna play a little game with my husband. The next evening, the house buzzed with warmth. Amara had invited a handful of close friends and family for a casual movie night. Tunde arrived home to the sound of chatter and laughter. Surprised, "What's all this?" he asked, forcing a smile. "Just a small gathering," Amara said sweetly, kissing his cheek. "I thought it would be nice to watch something together." Reluctantly, he agreed. The lights dimmed. Everyone settled onto the couches with bowls of popcorn and drinks in hand. The screen flickered to life. At first, it was a harmless short film. Amara had downloaded funny, lighthearted, the kind that made people laugh easily. But then, as the laughter filled the room, Amara quietly picked up the remote and switched to the flash drive. The screen went black for a moment. Then the footage appeared. A man in a tuxedo. A woman in red. A kiss. The room fell silent. Gasps erupted. "What is this?" someone whispered. Tunde's face went pale. He leapt to his feet, his voice shaking. "Turn that off! Right now!" But Amara's hand held the remote firmly. Her eyes never left the screen. The voices played. His voice. Kemi's laughter. His promise, "She is my wife, yes, but you are my fire." The room froze in shock. Adeze turned sharply to Tunde. "Tunde, that is your face. That is your voice. How could you?" Tunde stammered, sweat beading his forehead. It's not what it looks like. Someone must have edited this." But his words were drowned by the whispers, the accusing stares, the heavy silence that filled the room. Amara finally pressed stop. She turned to him slowly, her eyes cold but steady. "Do you still think secrets can stay hidden, Tunde?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. His charm, his confidence, his lies, everything crumbled in that moment. When the guests finally left, Tunde rounded on her, his face twisted with rage. "How dare you humiliate me like this? Do you know what you've done?" Amara stood tall, unflinching. "I did nothing. You humiliated yourself the moment you betrayed me." His voice shook with anger. "You think you've won? This marriage will not survive if you keep fighting me." Her eyes burned with a quiet fire. Then let it break. I will not live in chains, Tunde. Not yours, not anyone's. He clenched his fists, his breath heavy, but for the first time, he had no power over her. The control he had enjoyed, the illusion of being untouchable, it was gone. That night, Amara sat alone by the window, the city lights glittering outside. The wind whispered against the glass as she whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning. The world now knows what you are, Tunde. But the climax will destroy you." And deep in her chest, she felt strength rise. A strength that came not from vengeance, but from truth. The night after the video was shown, the air inside the house felt poisoned. The laughter, the warmth, the illusion of love, all of it had died. Tunde sat alone in the living room, his hands gripping his head. His phone buzzed constantly, calls from colleagues, whispers from friends, even messages from his business partners. The footage had already spread faster than wildfire. Someone at the gathering had leaked it. His reputation was collapsing. He clenched his fists. Amara did this. She destroyed me. When Amara entered the room, calm as ever, he shot to his feet. His eyes were wild, his voice raw with fury. "What have you done, Amara? Do you know what this means? People are already talking my business, my friends, my family. You've ruined me." Her expression remained steady, almost cold. "I didn't ruin you, Tunde. Your choices did." He grabbed her wrist, his grip tight. "You think you can shame me? You think you can break me? I am not a man you can fight and win." But Amara didn't flinch. She met his eyes, her voice low and firm. "Then why do you look so afraid?" For a moment, silence hung between them. His grip loosened. He turned away, pacing like a trapped animal. "You don't understand," he muttered. "Kemi means nothing. It was just..." Amara cut him off sharply. "Don't you dare lie to me again. I heard your voice. You called her your fire. You told her she would always be yours. That is not nothing." His jaw tightened. He slammed his fist against the wall, the sound echoing through the room. The following days were worse. Tunde began drinking heavily, his once polished charm decaying into bitterness. Business meetings were canceled, partners pulled away, whispers of betrayal spread in the community. At night, he would stagger home, his words slurred. Sometimes he begged Amara for forgiveness, promising change. Other times he shouted at her, accusing her of destroying his life. But Amara never raised her voice. She never cowered. She only watched him, calm, steady, unshaken, because she knew the climax was near. One evening, he returned home late, his shirt rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. He dropped onto the couch, glaring at her. "Do you enjoy this?" he spat. "Do you enjoy watching me suffer? You wanted to expose me? Fine. You've done it. But don't think people will stand by you. A woman who shames her husband becomes a woman alone." Amara tilted her head, her voice soft but sharp. "Better alone in truth than chained in lies." He laughed bitterly. "You're naive. You think your little game will free you? No. If I go down, Amara, you go down with me." Her lips curved into a small smile. "That's where you're wrong, Tunde, because the truth only burns the guilty." The next morning, Amara visited the church where their wedding had taken place. The same hall where she had once walked in with hope now felt like a battlefield in her memory. She stood quietly before the altar, whispering a prayer not for Tunde, but for herself. "Give me strength to finish what I started, to stand firm, even when fear surrounds me." As she left the church, her phone buzzed. It was Adayez. "Cousin, are you ready? Everything is prepared. The people will gather tomorrow evening. He won't escape this time." Amara's heart pounded, but her voice was calm. "Yes, tomorrow the truth will end his mask forever." That evening, Tunde sensed something. He watched her as she prepared dinner, moving gracefully, her face serene, too serene. "What are you planning?" he asked suddenly, his voice sharp. She looked at him, her smile faint but steady. "Nothing you haven't already earned." His eyes narrowed. Rage and fear warred inside him. For the first time, he realized she was no longer the timid bride he thought he had married. She was stronger, sharper, unafraid. And he was the one cornered. That night, as the storm raged outside, lightning flashing through the windows, Tunde sat in darkness, whispering to himself. "She thinks she can destroy me. She thinks she can humiliate me again. But no, tomorrow, I will remind her who I am. Tomorrow, she will see the cost of crossing me." He poured himself another drink, the glass shaking in his hand. But upstairs, Amara stood by the window, watching the same storm. Her hand rested on the bouquet, the tiny camera still hidden within. Her whisper cut through the thunder. Tomorrow, the world will see you as you truly are, and I will finally be free. The evening was heavy with tension. Clouds gathered, dark and swollen, as though the heavens themselves prepared to witness judgment. Inside the community hall, rows of chairs were filled with friends, family, neighbors, and even business associates who had once looked at Tunde with admiration. Now, they looked with curiosity, some with suspicion, some with scorn. At the front of the hall, a large screen glowed faintly. Amara stood near it, her gown simple yet elegant, her posture regal. There was no fear in her eyes, only clarity, only resolve. Tunde entered moments later, his suit impeccable, but his face pale. His smile was forced, his eyes darting around nervously as whispers followed him like shadows. "What is all this, Amara?" he hissed, leaning toward her. "Why have you gathered people here?" Her voice was calm, steady, for the truth. The murmurs grew louder. Adize stepped forward, her arms crossed. "We are here because a man thought he could deceive us all. But tonight, lies will die." Tunde glared, his mask slipping. "This is madness. I will not stand here and—" But his words were cut short as the screen flickered to life. The footage began to play. The bouquet's hidden view. Tunde's face. Kemi in her red dress. The kiss. Gasps filled the hall. Some covered their mouths in shock. Others shook their heads in disgust. And then the whispers, their voices captured clearly. "Don't worry, Kemi. She won't ever know. You are my fire." The words echoed through the hall like a curse. Tunde stumbled backward, sweat dripping down his temples. "No! This is not real. It's edited. But Amara's voice rose, strong and unshaken. "The camera does not lie, Tunde. On the morning you were meant to honor me, you chose betrayal. On the day you vowed forever, you gave your heart to another." The hall erupted. Voices shouted, condemning him. His business partners turned away, murmuring about contracts they would cut. Elders shook their heads, whispering about disgrace. Tunde tried to shout above the noise. "You don't understand. I had reasons But no one listened. His charm was gone. His mask was broken. He turned desperately to Amara, his voice cracking. "Please, don't do this. You're my wife. You promised to stand by me." Amara's eyes glistened, but not with weakness, with strength, with release. "I promised to stand by a man of honor. Not a liar, not a cheat. You wanted fire, Tunde? Now burn in it." With those words, she stepped aside. The crowd closed in, their voices rising. Questions, condemnations, demands for answers. Tunde was swallowed by the storm of his own making. Amara walked calmly out of the hall, her steps light, her heart free. For the first time since her wedding day, she felt air in her lungs, strength in her chest. The storm outside had broken, rain pouring down in sheets, but she lifted her face to it, smiling through the drops. Adize hurried after her. "Cousin, it is done. He is finished." Amara nodded softly. "No, he finished himself the day he betrayed love. I only showed the world the truth." Later that night, she sat by her window, the bouquet beside her. She pulled the tiny camera from its hiding place, holding it in her palm. A single tear slipped down her cheek, not of sorrow, but of closure. She whispered, "You thought I was blind. You thought I was weak. But you forgot, Tunde, the eyes of a woman never truly sleep." With that, she placed the camera gently into a box, closed the lid, and set it aside. The battle was over. The truth had triumphed. And Amara was finally free.